So I guess I can start. So this talk will be about testing REST services, but it's completely live because it will not be about testing REST services, but more about testing the mashup applications. If you are not familiar what is mashup, it's like it's a small app or your app which consume like third-party APIs. Like for example, it's connected to Twitter, Google Maps, I don't know, evil Facebook or something like that. So it consumes these APIs and produce something, right? And it's very hard to test this kind of stuff because usually when you run the test, you need to access all those APIs, fetch some information and stuff. So I will talk about that more. But first, let's talk about a bit of testing in Ruby. So actually, testing in Ruby sucks because we have all these, different. This is actually Cucumber. My tab. So you have all these kind of testing frameworks you can use in Ruby for testing, and many projects use different kind of testing frameworks. So if you want to contribute to some open source project in Ruby or some library, you will most probably need to learn something, like a DSL or something, which completely sucks. So yeah, I just highlight some of them, but there are many, many more. So you can, see very weird stuff going on here. So testing Ruby sucks. But what I usually use is a minitest. Why? Because minitest is part of the Ruby standard library. So you don't need to install anything, you have already everything in place. If you look on the Cucumber, for example, at all these crippled DSLs you need to learn, minitest is really fun because it's like you are writing Ruby, and you like to write Ruby and you don't want to learn some obscure DSLs or some, write features or something like that and have write a parser to parse the features. Come on, it's for managers, right? So it's not fun, doing this stuff. Even if it seems like the fun is not fun. So minitest provides its complete suite for testing. So it supports all these kind of different testing, methodologies. So you can do test-driven development, BDD, behavior-driven development. You can write features, you can write stories. Everything is supported. It also supports mocking, benchmarking, and there are many more. So the core of the minitest, which you all get for free when you install Ruby in the Ruby standard library, is this minitest unit, which is the basic unit testing. In Ruby 1.9, this completely replaced the test unit, which was the standard small library used for testing. So if you are in 1.9 and you're still using this test unit, you are probably now using minitest because minitest have some backward compatibility plugin that's hooking and do your stuff. Then you have a minitest spec, which is something like an RSpec if you are familiar with that. So it's already there. You can write it. You can use it. It's a very nice feature is benchmarks. So you can include the benchmarks in your test and measure like algorithm speeds and how they behave under load and stuff like that. It's actually very complex, and there are many plugins that you can use in benchmarking. So. And I'm saying everything this is for free in Ruby. You don't need to install any gems or play with some things. It has also support for mocking and stubbing, so you don't need to use Mocha or some weird tools. Everything is in there. You can stub, mock your methods. You can, whatever this. And it also has a pride, which is included in standard distribution. It gives you colors in the console. So if you really like colors, you can get them if you just require this. And yeah, as I said, there are many extensions available. There are extensions with, for integration with Jenkins, Travis, Rails, and I don't know how many. There are like hundreds of extensions around. So usually when you need something in minitest, somebody already wrote it in extension, and you just need to search GitHub or something and you will find it there. So for example, we wanted to have this Jenkins produce this JUnit XML stuff, that Jenkins can then display. There's plugin in minitest for that, so you just require the plugin and you get this XML back. So how it looks like, this is a very simple example, like how the test case looks like. So basically describing person. The before is something that is executed for every test case. So when you have more test cases, you always call the before. So I create a new person. Then you describe the behavior, so it should make you piss after you drink more than 10 beers. There is something that you measure with these, like must equal something. There are many methods like must equal, must include, must not include. You know, there are many measures you can use. There's also like must throw exception and stuff like that. Everything is there. Okay, so on beginning I said that this will be about testing the mesh applications. So why the testing mesh applications is so hard? So first, there's a lot of mocking and stubbing. So if you want to test your application and you don't want to talk with the Twitter API or Facebook API every time, you need to do a lot of stubbing. You know, like basically every method that you have that calls the backend like some provider API, you need to stub or mock, which is really pain. Then running a test costs a lot of money, right? Because, for example, if you are testing some application on Amazon EC2 and your test need to spawn some instance there and run some tests, destroy it several times, you know, it costs money. So, and yeah, some providers don't appreciate this benchmarking, you know, to arguing to them. Like if you run some test against Twitter, which has like, I don't know, 80 cases, like 800 cases, you are seriously like DDoSing the service. So I think they will just cut you off, or they will, after some amount of requests, they will just throw a limit reach or something like that. Yeah, and the next, you know, stuff is like, it's very hard to integrate with some public continuous integration services like Travis, Jenkins. If you're running in public, you don't usually want to expose your credentials to the world, right? If you have some API keys or something, you need to deal with that somehow, you know. Yeah, and since it runs forever, you know, it makes you angry as a developer because you need to wait, you run some tests and you need to wait like minutes, you know, when they finish, and to see some failure on the bottom, so then you fix it, you know, so it really sucks. So I wrote this super simple Twitter application in Ruby. So basically what it do, it will create a person class, you give the person name, and then there is a method followers that will fetch the followers from that person, you know, and store the names of the followers in an array. And this is basically what it does, you know. So yeah, I can run it maybe so you can see it. Okay, I can't run it, but believe me, it works. You know, like yeah. So, and there is a sample test case for this, right? For this method. So I describing the person, the behavior. You know, I create a new instance of this class and store it to this variable, and then I run the test case like it should include Marek Mahut in the list of followers. So when I run this test case, it should, you know, succeed because Marek Mahut is following me for some reason. So and I want to highlight here what I involved is this. This is a very simple one test case and it runs for 8 seconds. You see? So and now imagine that you have very robust Rails app or something and you do basically thousands of requests for something, you know, fetching some streams in Twitter and stuff. So it could run like forever, you know, in like 1 day, you know, before you do it. And I think Twitter will just cut you off after like 1,000 requests or something like that. So what you can do with this? There is a nice Ruby gem called VCR. You know, this video recorder stuff, you know. So this is it. It records the interaction, like HTTP interaction with the public service, or basically every HTTP interaction you want. And then you can replay them when you are running the test. So you don't actually speak to the real server like Twitter, but you just record some cartridges and then you like they call cassettes, you know, like, and then this cassette is pulled in, you know, and it will just get the data from that. So what is good about this library is that it supports almost every Ruby HTTP library, so you can hook into every Ruby library for HTTP I know. I haven't met any HTTP library that doesn't support. It stores the recordings in YAML or JSON, so you can read them actually, so you can check like what is really going on, like what are the HTTP headers and stuff. You can control what to record and what not. For example, you can prevent it to record your username password. So you can replace that with something else. That's supported. So you can have your fixtures, like the cassettes are basically your fixtures, and you're replaying your test, and the fixtures don't include any sensitive data. So you can push it to GitHub or run it in Travis. I will speak about that. So yeah, you can hook in, you can filter password, key, sensitive data, everything you want. So now, how it looks like when you want to configure it. So first, you just do VCR configure. You set like where the fixtures will be stored, where the YAML file will end up. Then you can use in Ruby. You have different libraries for mocking the HTTP communication. So if you prefer something else than webmock, you can use it. Doesn't matter. This is a default cassette option. So it basically said that if there is a new HTTP interaction, record it. Otherwise, just replay that ones that are already recorded. This can be set to none or all. So basically, when you set to none and you run it, and there is something, some communication is needed with the backend server, HTTP server, it will just fail the test. If you set it to all, you will just re-record everything. Which is quite handy sometimes when you want to update the data. Yeah, and this funny block here filters the basic HTTP authentication. So basically, I'm replacing in URI every user and password with fake user and fake password. So I can store my credentials on my system. I can record the test, and in the pictures, all the sensitive data will be replaced with this. And it works. So now, how the test case looks like, all you need to do is insert cassette, so you want to insert something. This is a magic because this is executed for every test case, and this magic variable here, name, is the name of the test case. So it will basically create for every test case, it will create one YAML file, But you can also do like something like VCR.insertCassette2 and something in that block, and you can name it as you want. I prefer these, but if you have more complicated scenarios where you do multiple requests or the same request with different attributes and stuff like that, you can do it. It's not a problem. So after this test case is run, you want to eject the cassette. So the other test case will get something completely new. And this is the same as before. So and now you can see if I run this test. It finished in like 0.something seconds because I don't really speak to Twitter. I'm just using something I recorded before. So I can show it actually, and now it should work. So this is the application test. This is the real communication with Twitter, right? Sucks. You need to wait and wait and wait. There is a slow internet connection, so you will wait more. Oh, here you go. 60 seconds. Awesome. So now I will enable the VCR stuff. And I will run the same test case, but with VCR enabled. And now cross the fingers. See, it's the same test case, just with recorded data. Yeah.
More of a comment. The reason why he puts Marek Mayhood in the code is because he's an international criminal, and there's an extremely large reward for his capture. So it's very important that he tries to find out where he is.
Just remember that name. You will heard about him. News or something. So yeah. So there are some pros cons about VCR. So the plus is no more too many requests in Twitter because you can record everything and you just replay your cassettes and you are not abusing their service. So they don't send you any angry emails or something that you are doing something weird. For developers, put down from 8 seconds to 0, basically, and you can deploy it right now on some Travis or some public continuous integration. There is nothing sensitive inside, so you can use your pictures. Pros is that you need to re-record every n days. So basically, it happens that you record them and you think, okay, everything is fine. My application, is green. Everything is okay. But then Twitter decides to change something, right? And your test will be still fine because they will use the mocked data, right? The things that you recorded like half a year ago. So sometimes you need to re-record them. So But that's very easy. You just set these to all, and you will get fresh data. So you will actually see the failures and stuff. And as I said, like one of the side effects is that sometimes you get false positives. So your test should fail because Twitter changed something, but you test succeed because you use the mock data. Okay, so and the example I was running, like the VCR setup and everything, gem file is in GitHub, so you can just fetch it and run it for yourself. I don't have any sensitive data here, so any keys or something like that. Do you have any questions? Okay then, thanks. Čo?
No tohle to, jako prostě přesně to, co tam bylo jako v té prezentaci. Vlastně jsem potřeboval právě něco jako integration a...
My sme to robili v Delta Cloud, ja si zober, že my sme testovali nejakých 7 providerov proste cloudových. A teraz, že pustíte testy, trvalo pol dňa, kým prešli celé ako live.
Si vím, že prostě máš věci, které jsou jako vůbec nejsou třeba na nějakých APIčkách, ale jsou to třeba scrapery. Jo. A teď prostě testuje scrapery.
Áno, ktorý ti má vyskrepovať proste niekoľko miliónov stránok analýzov.